do I have this right that the pick of JD Vance speaks to the working class Americans? That's what hopes to speak to. Hillbilly elegy, a man who came up from poor Appalachia, went to Yale Law School, and that is who JD Vance is expected and hoped to attract.
JD is a product of the working class. He grew up in Appalachia. It's very similar to the Ozarks that we have back home in Missouri. And so this will connect to people all over the country, especially in rural America, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, West Virginia, because that is what the party is today. We are the party of the working class. We're not the country club Republicans. It's focused on real Americans, and that's, for example, why President Trump has moved to not tax tips, because we are the ones delivering for real Americans.
It seems, and I just heard the speaker mention mortgage. I have heard more about home prices at this convention than I have in every other convention that I have been at combined. Tell me how the messaging for tonight, we know President Trump said he ripped up his speech. Tell me how the messaging has changed since what you would have expected, say, on Saturday morning.
It's about unity. The Republican Party is unified. The American people are unified. They are fed up with inflation that's gone up 20.1%. They are fed up with more than $1 trillion of credit card debt. They're fed up with the highest interest rates in 3 decades. They want to change. They like the best economy in their lifetime, which was when Donald Trump was president, and he'll return us to that.
Looking at JD Vance, and you make a great point that this is speaking, I don't know if Republicans really have to worry about West Virginia, but they do have to worry about Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That speaks to this voter, a battle for the working class. And in fact, Joe Biden's campaign just put out a statement talking about how a second Trump term will be terrible for working class Americans. I know you'll disagree with that. But JD Vance does something else. Donald Trump felt betrayed by Vice President Pence. He's made that clear. And J.D. Vance is not the insurance policy. A lot of moderate voters, I'm thinking you could call them country club Republicans, but they're swing voters in places like Chesterfield, Missouri, swing voters in suburban Atlanta, who may be a little skeptical of Donald Trump post the last election and are looking for someone who will stand up to him. J.D. Vance isn't going to do that.
J.D. Vance is going to be a great addition to the ticket. Definitely, President Trump feels that he's loyal to him, and he's loyal to working class Americans. That's why he's put on the ticket. That's, in fact, why he'll be there. The vice president does not make or break an election.
Respectfully, it did for John McCain. The pick of Sarah Palin, it got a raucous applause. I was there in 2008. The crowd went wild for Sarah Palin and putting lipstick on a pig and hockey moms and pit bulls. But when she got out into the national media, people had a real fear, for lack of a better term, of her becoming the president, a heartbeat away. Is there a thought, a reason? What do you say to people who feared that with J.D. Vance?
If that was the case, they would have never elected Joe Biden, because that is how Americans feel about the current vice president of the United States. The vice president the candidate does not affect the president. Donald Trump will get elected because of Donald Trump. He had so many options, he could have picked anyone. J.D. Vance or any VP nominee will not affect that. I would have to disagree and think there's other reasons why John McCain lost, and it wasn't because of Sarah Palin.
Okay, fair enough, and I think we can talk about that. We're listening to one of the many videos that talks about the economic fight that Americans are going through. You're one of the more influential members of Congress. It's why we're glad to have you tonight. That means you're pretty influential here at the convention. What has been the message that's gone out from the Trump campaign on how to capitalize, and I hate putting it in political terms, but we're at a convention, on the events of both Joe Biden's debate performance and then the events of Saturday?
What we are capitalizing on tonight, it's make America wealthy again. Looking at the economy, we're hitting the issues. If in fact people focus on the issues at hand between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Donald Trump will win all 50 states, because our policies win. Our policies are the right for the average American, for all Americans, and that's what we're focused on. It's not about personalities, whether it's whether Joe Biden is fit to lead or whether people are upset with mean tweets.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.